Travel 500 kilometers north of Beijing, China's capital, and you'll enter a realm of vibrant colors. Here, the forces of ice and fire have sculpted unique geological wonders. Countless creatures have forged homes bound by life and death. This vast land of mountains, grasslands, lakes, and sandy land challenges life. With extremes, drought and moisture, abundance and scarcity, harshness and gentleness, adaptation is the key to survival. This is Hexington, where life endures in an ever-changing world. In June, summer arrives in Hexington. Compared with other areas at the same latitude, summer is too short here. Both animals and plants have to seize the time to grow fast. In this place with diverse species and an unstable ecological environment, every form of life must develop different survival strategies to enjoy the most beautiful season, while coping with various unexpected challenges. Hexington lies in the transitional zone between the inner Mongolia grasslands and the Hexington Mountains. To its south, a unique geographical feature extends: the sandy land. The sandy land is not as barren as people imagine. On the contrary, China's temperate sandy land is a rather prosperous biological world. When it is summer, the sandy land starts to repair itself. The main characters now are the lush plants and cute creatures. Most plants thrive in sunlight, but elm trees prefer areas where the light is less intense. This is because, on sunlit slopes, the snow melts and evaporates quickly. In contrast, on shaded slopes, the snow melts slowly, providing plants with much needed water. From an ecological perspective, the carrying capacity of the sandy land is even richer than that of the grasslands. Here, not only shrubs but also tall trees can thrive. This is because the granular sand contains microscopic natural gaps, enabling excellent water infiltration and storage. With this moisture, shrubs and herbaceous plants appear. Under their shelter, elm seedlings grow and compete fiercely with the shrubs. Once established, elm trees outcompete other species, becoming the dominant population. To obtain more living space, elm trees expand into wider areas, creating a rare temperate savanna landscape. Such natural landscapes exist in only two places on Earth: the tropical savannas of Africa and the Hexington sandy land before us. The Samophytes offered living space for animals. In the hollow of a dead elm, the ruddy shelducks have found their hatchery. After careful observation, we decided to set up special filming equipment here to document the ruddy shelducks hatching process in the hollow. No sooner had we finished setting up than a female duck returned to the nest. Our hidden cameras captured its return from various angles. The female duck seemed hesitant, perhaps noticing the unusual cameras. Once it felt safe, it cautiously entered. Ruddy shelducks are used to hatching in various natural caves. This hidden hollow is an excellent choice, but it poses a significant challenge. The entrance is over 2 meters above the ground. How will the hatchlings get out? But the female duck seemed unbothered. Having chosen this spot for nesting, it must have her reasons. Eridingbotter's family moved from the winter pasture at the foot of the Hexington Mountains to the grassland, marking the start of their idyllic summer. Morning chores now resemble leisurely activities. Herders typically select summer pastures by rivers or ponds, where nature itself takes care of most needs. The cattle and sheep graze freely, enjoying endless grass and fresh water. Today's Hexington grassland is the most typical temperate grassland in China, but it hasn't always been this way. Over 5,000 years ago, this area was home to one of the earliest farming cultures in northern China. Later, as the climate became colder and drier, people had to switch from farming to a nomadic lifestyle that relied on the grassland. On the Jinzi Hill near Dalliner Lake, carved paintings of galloping horses on rocks recorded a history of nomadic people living and thriving here. The successful domestication of horses marks the true birth of nomadic peoples. Only after mastering the knowledge and skills of horseback riding could the herders follow and even control the cattle and sheep to move in a large area. On this vast grassland, nomadic peoples have risen again and again and become an important force influencing human civilization history. The elm tree seems to be the ruler of the sandy land. But in Hexington, it faces a strong competitor, the Mongolian spruce. From the day they break out of the soil, spruce seedlings start their long childhood. During the short growing season of each year, they can only grow taller by 2 to 3 centimeters, so it takes 30 years to reach 1 meter in height. After 30 years, the spruce finally enters a vigorous growth period, during which it grows taller by 30 to 40 centimeters each year. To stand firmly on the sandy land, the spruce develops an extensive root system. The primary root has degenerated, while the lateral roots are exceptionally developed. The lateral roots exposed on the ground are thick and dense, extending more than 10 meters, far beyond its crown. It is estimated that the root system of the spruce accounts for more than 70% of the tree's total weight. This extensive root system supports the spruce's growth towards the sky. By the age of 50, the average height of spruces exceeds 10 meters, with their treetops finally surpassing the elms in the sandy land. The dense canopy of spruces takes away the elm's opportunity to enjoy the sun. To ensure the continuation of the species, they have to explore new territories on other sand dunes. The Mongolian spruces near the waters get more moisture. This giant spruce, over 20 meters tall, may be over 200 years old. Due to their great dependence on water, spruces grow in line with the flow of rivers or groundwater in the shape of a belt. Looking down from the air, a dark green river flows in the yellow sandy land, a river of life. The competition between spruces and elm trees transformed the landscape of the sandy land. Meanwhile, it has gathered the drifting sand and stopped the movement of sand dunes, thus saving the sandy land from becoming a desert. In this place with less favorable ecological conditions, they are both beneficiaries and creators of the environment. In this lazy summer, young people seem to have nothing to do. Enhe, the second son of Badr, decides to make good use of this period. Today, Enhe plans to lasso a few spare horses from their own herd. When Badr was young, he was an expert in lassoing horses. But as he aged, he passed on this physically demanding task to his son. On the grassland, untamed horses are violent and wild. To lasso a horse, you first need to separate it from the herd. This requires a great deal of patience. Enhe knows this well. He followed the herd patiently. After a while, a red foal gradually fell behind. The chance came. Enhe swung his lasso and accurately caught the foal. The incubation for ruddy shell ducks usually lasts 4 weeks. Almost overnight, the ducklings begin to hatch all at once. The ruddy shell duck strategy is to hatch as many as possible, but the ducklings hatch at different times, and there are still 2 eggs. The mother must patiently wait for their arrival. The telephoto lens focuses on the male duck. At the same time, the hidden cameras record everything that happens in the tree hollow. All the details of the ruddy shell duck family's life are presented before us. The newborn ducklings can only rely on their eggshells for nutrition. With no food or water in the tree hollow, staying there means certain death. But it is also impossible to fly out of it. The ducklings' wings won't be able to fly until 2 months later. How can the parents bring these ducklings out of the 2-meter-deep tree hollow? More and more migrant birds have their offspring. It is midsummer now on Hexington. Hexington is located on the west of the Enhe Mountains. The moisture from the ocean is blocked by the mountain range. There are clouds in the clouds now and then, but they cannot bring rain. Under the midday sun, the evaporation on the grassland intensifies. A crisis is quietly approaching. The river that once gurgled with flowing water is now almost dry. In the most drought-stricken pastures, the grass has turned yellow, as if fall has arrived early. To seek the blessings of the gods and the favor of rain, people on the grassland have passed down the custom of worshiping the aobao. An aobao means heaps of stones, usually built on hills. Bayan aobao is the most sacred aobao on the Hexington grassland. Every year on May 13th of the lunar calendar, people gather to worship aobaos. Aobaos on the grassland have genders. Some aobaos belong to men, some belong to women, and some belong to children. The most sacred Bayan aobao is one for fathers, and only men are allowed to climb to the top and worship it. The ritual begins the night before and must end before dawn. Lamas chant scriptures and herders offer sacrifices, praying for good weather and prosperity for cattle and sheep. No matter how advanced technology becomes, as long as people cannot change their dependence on nature, their reverence for it will remain unchanged. The drought continues. The grebe couple has been working together all these days to guard their nest. The overwhelming presence is a local species of lake flies. In the freshwater wetland by Doliner Lake, the lake fly swarms have changed the color of the lakeshore. Although the adults can only survive several days, females can lay eggs without fertilization in the warm season, producing dozens to hundreds of eggs each time. Most of these offspring are also female and will lay eggs again. This exponential increase leads to a massive outbreak. Lake flies can provide high-protein food for breeding birds, and their eggs are natural food for fish. There is another hidden benefit. The larvae of lake flies feed on the organic debris at the bottom of the water. Thanks to them, the water becomes cleaner. The appearance of lake flies is a blessing from God. However, the outbreak of another insect could spell disaster. Some parts of the originally dark green spruce forest turn a reddish color, as if scorched by fire, presenting a scene of surviving a disaster. In fact, the disaster is not over yet. The culprit is the bark beetle, which parasitizes spruce trunks. In the dry weather, a large number of bark beetles dig tunnels inside the spruces. Even spruces that are tens of meters tall can be knocked down by bark beetles that are only a few millimeters long. If there is abundant rain, bark beetles won't be so rampant. Forest engineers cannot pray for rain, but they have figured out another way. This box emits an irresistible scent to bark beetles, which comes from synthetic female hormones. Male bark beetles rush in, competing for the chance to reproduce. But apart from enjoying the stronger scent, they will say goodbye to the outside world forever. Humans go to great lengths to protect Mongolian spruces because of their unique water retention and sand stabilizing functions. The Hexington sandy land is only 500 kilometers from Beijing, the capital of China. Subtle changes here could lead to environmental degradation over a larger area. To prevent the sandy land from turning into a desert, people must proceed with caution. The prolonged drought is good news to ruddy shell ducks. The ducklings are in the vertical tree hollow that is completely exposed. Once it rains, the ducklings will all die. There are still 2 eggs that haven't hatched. If they keep waiting, the ducklings born first will die of hunger and thirst. The female duck must make a choice. It flutters out of the tree nest and calls out from the grass below. The ducklings seem to understand its call. The ducklings start to jump up. They grip the wall of the hollow with their tender feet and climb up and up. Ruddy shell ducks are good swimmers, and the ducklings are born with the ability to swim. But now, it is a test of their climbing skills. Jump, grip, and jump again. If they fail, they have to start over. The anxious parents outside keep calling. Every moment of delay increases the danger. The steppe eagle glides in the sky. The appearance of the predator makes the mother more anxious. More and more ducklings have jumped out of the hollow. They gather around the mother. As they escape their birthplace, they also escape what could have been their grave. This is a cruel process. Before having a single mouthful of food, the ducklings have to start or end their lives in this way. The ducklings in the hollow are still struggling for life. It nearly succeeded, but finally fell down to the bottom. This is the longest moment. The female duck has to take its children to the water before dark. The duckling in the nest is too tired to jump again. This hidden tree hollow is their cradle as well as their grave. The mother has done everything she can. Now, it must take care of more children. Only by crossing the forest and finding a pond quickly can they start a new life. Choice means giving up. Sometimes, giving up is the best choice. In the summer, only the towering Hexington Mountains can block the moisture. Hexington Mountains is a reference line to distinguish monsoon and non-monsoon regions. The moisture from the Pacific Ocean arrives on schedule every year due to the monsoon. Around Huanggangliang, the highest peak of the Hexington Mountains, the primary forest of the Hurrian larch presents a unique forest landscape of Northeast Asia. The Asian white birch forest extends from the bottom of the mountain to the top. Finally, they find a place to take root on the rocks. The conquest of rocks by plants is even more remarkable on another mountain in Hexington. On the top of Qingshan, 100 kilometers south of Arshihedi Granite Forest, lies the largest and densest granite mortars in northern China. Due to insufficient development of horizontal and vertical joints, the granite on Qingshan has a round shape under the effect of spheroidal weathering. There are pits of various sizes on the granite, and some of them are connected. Water and wind have created these natural wonders and will bring life here later. First, the grass arrives. It takes root in small pits with a little soil so that the soil won't be taken away by wind. The spread of grass gradually thickens the soil in the granite mortar. As long as there is water and soil, plants will expand their territory at their own pace until trees appear. The Hexington Mountains are covered with Asian white birch. With the help of the wind, the seeds of Asian white birch drift everywhere. Most of the seeds fall on smooth rocks or granite mortars without soil, losing the opportunity to continue growing. Only those who are lucky enough to fall into larger granite mortars with thicker soil can continue to live. The forces of water and wind dig downward into the rocks. Similarly, the forces of water and wind push the grass and trees to grow upward. In this process, the roots of plants travel like drills through the cracks of the rocks, which accelerates the evolution of the granite mortars. The various granite mortars on the mountaintop are at different stages of evolution. If we consider granite mortar to be a special form of life, the small and shallow ones are young, while the large and deep ones are old. In the final stage of the granite mortar's evolution, all that is left are some pits. The wind will not only erase these traces, but also create new ones. After a long wait, the much-anticipated rain finally arrives. All the low-lying areas in Hexington are filled with water. The lava plateaus on the west shore of Dahliner Lake are covered with green grass. Howlai River flows in depressions with relatively deep soil, making a narrow watercourse hidden in the green grass. It would be no exaggeration to call it the narrowest river in the world. The rain relieves the livestock from hunger and thirst, and the herders' lives become busy. Today, all of Botter's children have returned home. They are participating in an important family activity. In midsummer, all the sheep need to shed their heavy coats to stay cool. However, the owner will help them change clothes in the shortest time. Enhe, the second son, chooses a sheep from the flock. Catching sheep is a physical task. They want the sheep to have a cool summer, but the sheep cannot understand such kindness. Production activities on the grassland are often seasonal. Activities such as sheep shearing require the participation of the whole family. Sheep shearing is all about skills. The sharp blades start from the tail of the sheep. The work needs to be done neatly, and make sure the blades won't hurt the sheep's skin. Such work, which requires patience and skills, is suitable for women. Scraps are worthless. Only whole fleeces can be sold at the best price. Before selling livestock in the fall, selling wool is the main source of income for herders' families. With their thick coats removed, the sheep can have a cool summer. The plants in the sandy land are replenished with water, and the scattered ponds are full of water now. The mother-ruddy shelduck and its ducklings settle in a small pond at the foot of the Aobow Hill after a life-and-death ordeal. In less than a month, the ducklings are tall enough to forage for water plants on their own. The male duck still remains vigilant in the outer area, ready to sound the alarm at the slightest disturbance. The tern won't make reddy shelducks nervous. Its nest is on an island in the middle of the pond. Whenever the female duck approaches, the tern will fly back quickly. The message is clear: the water is yours, and the island is mine. Let's stay out of each other's way. The reddy shelducks are happy with the arrangement. The herder and his cattle have no intention of disrupting the tranquil life here. It is evident that the citizens of the small pond abide by a common contract. The vigilance of the male duck is not just for show. The steppe eagle shows up all of a sudden. The male duck sounds the alarm immediately. The ducklings hurry to hide when hearing the call. The steppe eagle comes closer. We can almost see its strong feathers. The ducklings dive into the water to hide their bodies. This is a survival skill they have learned after escaping the tree hollow. Seeing no opportunity, the steppe eagle reluctantly flies away and heads towards its original destination, the Aobow Hill. The rituals on the Aobow Hill do not stop all year round. People who perform the rituals leave their wishes and offerings to the gods. When they leave, the place will become a world for crows and steppe eagles. Steppe eagles fly over Aobow Hill. The offerings given by humans to the gods ultimately return to the sky. After a false alarm, the reddy shelduck family reunites again. The pair laid 12 eggs in the tree hollow. 2 unhatched eggs and 1 newly hatched duckling were left behind forever. Two ducklings were lost during their journey, leaving only 6 survivors. For these ducklings who escaped death, a challenging life has just begun. There are many flowers and festivals on the grassland. It is the 70th birthday of Zamasu, an old Mongolian teacher. Over the decades, he has taught several generations of students. Now, all his students have come to pay their respects to the most esteemed elder. It is a perfect opportunity for a joyful gathering. On the grassland, the biggest festival is Naadam. Just like animals in nature sometimes scatter and sometimes gather in large groups, People on the grassland will gather from all directions at this time. The history of Naadam can be traced back to the tribal assembly in the era of Genghis Khan. On the vast grassland, nomadic people moved freely with their cattle and sheep. They seemed to be undisciplined and disorganized, but as long as they heard a command, the scattered people would assemble like the tides into an invincible force. Back then, Genghis Khan relied on the strong mobility of nomadic peoples to establish a social organization model that combined production and military power. In the era of cold weapons, he launched rounds of attacks on farming peoples with his powerful fighting force. On the western shore of Dalliner Lake, we can still see a line of earthen mounds winding up and down on the grassland. This is the Great Wall built by the Jin dynasty in the 12th century to fend off the Mongols. With no stones on the grassland, they constructed it with earthen walls. In the face of Genghis Khan's armored cavalry, it was almost a mere decoration. Genghis Khan's army swept across the Eurasian steppe like a whirlwind and established an empire spanning Eurasia. This is the most important event in which nomadic peoples rewrote human history. However, once the nomadic people built cities and began to settle, they gradually lost the mobility and combat power that came with movement, and the dynasty would also fall. This is almost a common fate of steppe empires. In 1368 AD, Emperor Shun of Yuan, the last emperor of the Yuan dynasty that ruled the Central Plains, retreated to the northern steppe with his ministers and guards. He chose to settle in Yingchenglu, ancient town on the west shore of Dalliner Lake. In this town, the rulers who had lost their empire indulged in wine and sex. 2 years later, Emperor Shun of Yuan died of depression. The last scene of the Yuan dynasty was left in the Hexington grassland. As time flies, the past has become history. The tradition of Naadam was carried on and has become a carnival for herders. Compared with those exciting historical legends, the daily life of ordinary life seems to be warm and real. At the Naadam festival, highly skilled tailors demonstrate their exquisite skills. Old craftsmen demonstrate the rare art of saddle making. The most fascinating part of the event is the Mongolian old ladies making felt. Layers of wool are tightly pressed together, and the felt they make is very warm. This is the main material Mongols used to resist wind, frost, rain, and snow when building yurts. Enhe, Badr's fourth son, is also here. He is an excellent wrestler. Mongolian wrestling has no age, weight, or rank restrictions. Each wrestler wrestles once per round. Only those who keep winning can become champions. The most exciting event at Naadam is horse racing. The galloping horses, the brave herders, and the exciting scene bring the people back to the days of riding and fighting to feel the glory of their ancestors. Outside the Naadam venue, it is peaceful and serene, as always. But the stories of life are everywhere. The lava plateaus by Dalarna Lake can only grow a thin layer of grass. An old elm tree has grown for hundreds of years, relying on the water in a depression, and has become a sacred tree. Herders have tied red ribbons on its green branches, hoping the sacred tree can bring them good luck. Inside its dry trunk, there is a nest with bird eggs hatching. The babies will be born inside the centuries-old tree. They find every possible space to reproduce and keep waiting patiently for their moment of glory. In Hexington, stories of numerous creatures are hidden in the seemingly ordinary world. In fall, Hexington opens its arms to generously greet the birds gathering here. This is the pride of the Hexington people. Their kindness, affection, perseverance, and passion allow the life stories here to continue.